Good morning, everybody. Well, we're back. We're back for another Sunday show. 230 this time. Hope you guys are ready. Today we're going to be talking about a lot of things, including some very interesting things about some Strats. So I hope you guys are into it. I've been on a Strat binge since the last time we spoke. It's been an interesting week since I've been busy with so many other things. I haven't had an opportunity to do much, but yesterday and today, I don't know why. I think maybe it's because I haven't had an opportunity to play my Strats for a long time. I decided to do just that and been on a Strat binge ever since. So today, I have them all out. We'll talk about them in a little bit here. Just want to say good morning to everybody first. Hope you guys are all doing well. I hope you guys didn't get too confused regarding the change in time. We do this crazy thing here in Canada called daylight savings, which is not universal. And today it caught me off guard as well. I was up bright and early today and it seemed like 10:30 was never coming. So if you guys are a little bit thrown off by the time change, yeah, we're officially in what is it called? Daylight saving time. So that means that we have some extra time or extra light in the morning, but then it gets darker quicker at night. So I prefer to have some extra time or extra light at nighttime because, gives me more time to do stuff. If you come home and it's already pitch dark, you just want to go to bed, which doesn't help. Anyways, that's not here nor there. As long as you guys are here today, that's what counts. So hopefully if others got confused, they'll trickle in a little bit later. So I'm going to say good morning to everybody that's here. As I always say, please subscribe to the channel so that you'll be able to chat. Because if you don't subscribe, you're not going to be able to jump in on the chat. And that's what these live Sunday shows are all about here on Addicted to Gear. And if you're new, you can sit back, just listen, and then just comment whenever you wish. If there's something interesting you want to pipe in on, the floor is always open to everybody that's here. So let's say good morning. Peter England, he says, good morning, everyone. We'll have to watch replay because it's 2 a.m. here in Melbourne, Australia. That's no worry. It's all right, Peter. I mean, that's why the replays are there, so everybody could enjoy what's been said during the show, even if you can't participate live. But thank you for at least saying good morning. And he says, be good. There may be a frusciante under your Christmas tree. So I guess he's referring to the new custom shop Stratocaster that was announced this week, and we'll talk about that as well. So good morning, Peter. Dan is here. Good morning. SB also says he won't be here today. I'm going to be on a one-day trip to another town where I have some stuff to do, but just for topic of conversation, Fender, John, Frusciante, Strat for 20 grand. I think that is basically the big news this week. So if you guys haven't already heard, we'll talk about it. We'll cover that information in a little bit. Wayne is here. Good morning. Gene, good morning to you. Gene says good morning, Tony, and to the gang. J. Paul's here. Hey, J. Paul, what's happening, dude? Vinny says, ooh, it's daylight savings for you guys. So I guess that's another hour. Yeah, unfortunately another hour, but we're here now and that's what counts. NFM says, good morning, Tony, and all from snowy Idaho. Well, I hate those words. I hate snow. I've been going through my regular routine, what I call the winterization protocol before it starts to get cold. Today's only about 9 degrees, but it's sunny, and that's great, but I still have some stuff to do afterwards. So after this show, I'm going to be schlepping outside to continue the winterization process so that things don't just deteriorate during winter here, because winter's pretty rough. So I could relate, NFM. Jack says, good morning, everybody. J. Paul says, morning, gear addicts. Person turquoise waving. That's your little, I guess your little avatar. So J. Paul says, got an Eminence DV77 coming sometime before 10 p.m. it says. So hopefully you'll be able to spend the rest of the Sunday playing some interesting stuff out of that thing. It's always exciting when some new gear's coming in. I guess, where did you order it from? Is this something that you ordered recently, J. Paul? It must be, since it's only arriving today, but let us know how you like it. And hopefully it's going to make your dreams come true. It's always great to get those tones that you have in your head coming out of your gear. And it's always a fun thing. Gene says SSS or HSS. I guess he's referring to the pickup configuration. I prefer SSS. I do have a couple of guitars that are HSS configuration, and I always have trouble with the HSS configuration, humbucker single. For me, it's always a challenge to get the tones balanced between the humbucker and the single coils. So I prefer to go either full single coil, full humbucker. If I do have an opportunity to get a HSS, it's got to be dialed in right. Otherwise, it bothers me. So there's not that many that I've seen or played that were dialed in right. So that's my 2 cents worth. If anybody else has some comments on that, let us know. And Gene also says he's gassing for a P90 guitar. He's got to check some out. P90s are great. I've mentioned it before. I love P90 guitars. P90 pickups definitely are, they do their own thing, which is fantastic, because sometimes, you get a little bit, not bored, but the tones get a little stale when you're just constantly playing single coils or humbuckers. Sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of variation, and the P90s definitely do that. So what are you looking at, Gene? Anything in particular? Ah, there you go. Gene says he's looking at either a Gretsch with P90s or a Squier Stratosonic. Interesting choices. All right. Cool. Hey guys, I appreciate the thumbs up. I see them popping up now and then. That's fantastic. We have 44 people here already. A few more people are trickling in. Please give me a thumbs up if you don't mind. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, please subscribe or you won't be able to chat. All right? And that will be a shame. Gene says, I get a butterscotch Telecaster, but I have 4 already. I got 4 already, but now we're steady. There's nothing wrong with 4. The only thing that's wrong with 4 is you can get 5. That's kind of my impression, my opinion. But what do I know, guys? Don't listen to me. Listen, I'm looking at, I'm playing this Strat right now. And somebody had asked me way back when how many Strats I have. And I gave a number at the time. Things always change. And when I say Strats, I mean Fender Strats, not just Strat style guitars. Today I have 5 of them out. So I wanted to, talk about these a little bit as the show goes on. So this is one of them. I am a big sucker for 3-tone sunburst. I love these 3-tone sunburst guitars, and they're just great. I love the color, always did. So I'll go through some of them with you today. We'll talk about that, since the whole hype of the custom shop John Frusciante guitar is like making the rounds on social media, creating a buzz. I figured it'd be a good time to talk about that. It's me, Don P is here. Good morning. The Gospel of Mark says, sup guys? Same old, Mark. Nothing crazy. I'm glad you can make it and drop by. Profile Production says, hey Tony, good morning. How's it going, Profile? The Nye says good morning as well. Mark says 3-hour gig last night, up at 5 a.m. for work this morning. I pooped. Dude, that's a long. Are you doing the Springsteen sprint, as I like to call it? Because he's known for doing marathon, concerts and stuff like that. 3 hours is long. It is long, especially if you're doing it alone. Was that a solo gig, Mark, or is that with your band, your trio? Or it's harder when you're doing it alone. Let's see here. I'm just scrolling. Marcel is here as well. Hope you're doing well, Marcel. Ed says, hey, Tony. A few weeks ago, I asked about an alternative to the NUX MG30. I finally add some third-party IRs. What a difference. I'm still thinking I'm guessing for a Pod Go. You know what? My opinion on that, Ed, is this. I mean, you can squeeze out a lot out of many of these units. You don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money, but a few people, typical people, what they end up doing is they get something like the MG30 or some other unit, and they don't necessarily read the manual to thoroughly understand what it can do. And as you mentioned, IRs are fantastic. They make a huge difference in the tones you can get out of these units. And some of these inexpensive units are quite good. You can do a lot with them. You don't necessarily have to jump down the rabbit hole and go full Monty with something like a fractal or something like that, where it's extremely intensive in terms of the learning curve. So you can do a lot with these little guys, and getting good IRs and putting them in there will create some fantastic tones. So I'm glad that you did do that already. And I would say squeeze out everything you can out of the MG30 first before you go to something like a Pod Go, because you might just end up spending extra money for nothing. You might be able to get a lot of the tones that you actually need right out of the MG30. Hey, Gene, what's happening? Farid, how's it going, dude? So, Mark says he's thankful he got the extra hour back, extra hour of sleep. Me too, Mark. This morning I was like, oh man, it's going to be rough. And then I look at my watch, I'm like, hey, that's weird. How come my watch is not right? And then I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about the daylight saving. So I could actually, not that I stayed in bed, but I actually had an extra hour to do other things. So that was good. But tomorrow I'm going to pay for it. It's going to be a little bit rougher tomorrow because we're going to have to shift everything. Presley says it'll be dark in about 3 hours. Exactly. We're going into the dark days of winter. Rico says, good morning from sunny Arizona. No time change here. Rub it in, Rico. It's always sunny there. It's always nice. I should move to Arizona. J. Paul says, Charvel puts the single coil bridge pickup slanted in the opposite direction to balance the highs, he says. So that's an interesting trick. I wonder if it's enough. Again, when it comes to HSS, you can get a balanced sound out of it, but you have to be really picky about what type of pickups you put in. A lot of people end up taking a stock HSS guitar, modding it with a new set of pickups, and then are disappointed with it because they don't mesh well. Paul's here. How's it going, Paul? Paul says I got nailed with a WYF when I looked at my laptop instead of my various other clocks. Yeah, man. I get you. It happens to me too. I'm going to have to go around the house now and reset everything. Time Surfing Alien says, been on a Telecaster binge myself since I won the FFTLGWT on Fretnot. Thing is a beast. Good morning, everyone. You know what? I usually switch. I flip-flop between Strats and Telecasters and Les Pauls. I've been doing a lot of Les Pauls in the last little while, but today and the last few days has been Strats. So I'm playing my Strat here. It's going through my Brunetti. So you'll be hearing it and others throughout the show today. The Brunetti is a beast, by the way. I love it. Love it to death. It's a great amplifier. It's just such a shame that they don't get enough love because you know, they make them over in Italy, and there's not a lot of distributors in the US and Canada if you want to get any of these. But I'm really excited, by the way, guys, because the guys over at Brunetti have been teasing us with a new amplifier. Well, it's not really new. They actually have. I'm just going to the website to see if it's actually on there yet, because they're teasing us, man. I hate when they do that. Here. So the website is if you go to Brunetti. I'm just trying to find where the heck, if they're gonna actually release them soon. I hope they are. I'm just looking, guys, because they have this beautiful amplifier that's been out for a long time. And it's very expensive. I wasn't able to afford it. It's the Mercury, which is fantastic because it's a beautiful 2-channel amplifier. It's elegant. It's got beautiful tones, both clean and just the gain is, you know, a beautiful liquid type gain. They actually even made a Mercury box, which is a pedal, which kind of is supposed to emulate the overdrive and distortion that you can get from the Mercury. In a box form. They're not cheap, but if you can't afford the full price of the Mercury, which is extremely expensive, by the way, you can always go with the pedals. Now, I'm just trying to see if I can get you the pricing on that, because there's not a lot of pricing detail on these, unfortunately. And the Mercury is EL34 base. That's the type of tubes that they use in there. Anyways, if you go online and you watch some of the videos on this amplifier, it's fantastic. Well, they're actually making a single channel version of this, which is a smaller version, which they call the Mercury 1. But I'm not sure if it's already available. I'm trying to get that information. I can see the information on this website here, the Italian website, but I don't see pricing or anything like that. But basically, it's an EL34 version of the Mercury, and it has 2 functions, I guess you would call it, not necessarily 2 channels, brown and edgy. And I'm just waiting to hear some sound samples of this thing and to see how much it costs. And I'm interested. I don't know if I'll grab it. It all depends on the pricing and everything, but it's got my attention. Mississippi Blues is here. Good morning. So is Searching for Tone. What's up, dude? And Mississippi Blues says, hi, Tony and everyone. I'm thinking of pulling the trigger on a Gibson SG Special with P90s. Do you have any experience with these or of these? Yeah, I think if you can get a beautiful SG Special with P90s, you're rocking, man. Great guitar. I was looking for one not long ago. I ended up getting something else with P90s in it, but the SG Special was the one that I actually was looking for. Now, if you can get a good one, there's a lot of different ones out there. Some of them are beat up. I don't know if you're looking at a new one or something used, but I think you're gonna love it. And it's a different tone. The P90s and an SG will give you a different tone, but it's It's a sweet tone, if you ask me. It's nice to have a P90 SG as well as an SG with humbuckers. You already have an SG with humbuckers, Mississippi Blues, or is this your first SG? Denro, greetings from Athens, Georgia. Good morning. I think you're new. I haven't seen you around that often. Scott Anthony is here as well. Eddie Jr. is here. Nella, good morning. All right. 53 people. Great, great. 39 thumbs up. What's going on, guys? Come on. Don't be lazy. Let's get those numbers up. Shane says, I've never owned a Behringer pedal. Are they as bad as some say? You know what, Shane? It's funny because depending on who you ask, they'll give you different information. And here's my take on it. Take it with a grain of salt. This is just my opinion. The thing about the Behringer pedals, I've tried a couple that people claim are copies of other more expensive pedals, and they sound pretty close, and they're really inexpensive. Now, the thing that gives Behringer pedals a bad rap, in my opinion, is the quality, because you look at a Behringer pedal, the casing is plastic. It looks cheap. It doesn't look like it's going to withstand a lot of wear and tear. If they would release, a new enclosure, spend a little bit more money on it, I'm sure that more people would buy them because they would look more like serious pedals. But they're really inexpensive. So at the end of the day, even if they do break, you can probably buy like 5 for the price that you would buy, something else. So it's a question of what you're looking for. Are you looking to save money? Are you looking to get in the ballpark? I'm sure, a lot of you probably have tried these pedals over time. And, I'm sure that a lot of people have some suggestions, including our own Paul here, for maybe some Behringer pedals that would be great clones. I know that they have one, an interesting one, which is a clone of a Tube Screamer, which I bought, and it does sound very close to a Tube Screamer. And, even though it's made of plastic, it didn't break on me yet. So, until it does, I'm not real worried. Now, I'm not saying they're all winners. You got to be pretty selective depending on what you're looking for. But for the price, for the money you're paying, it's not a big risk. If you're playing at home and you're not necessarily gigging or beating the crap out of your pedals, they'll last if you're careful with them. So J. Paul says the D77 is going into a Gen 3 Katana 2x12, one of two, obviously. It's lined out to a Mark II with a V30 cream back for the other slot in the 2x12 when I get the cash. So you're modding your Katana. Is this a Katana, Gen 3 Katana? Yeah, you mentioned. All right, cool. The Gen 3s. So a lot of people are liking those Gen 3 Katanas. It's interesting that you decided to mod the speakers on it, but that's probably a good thing. I'm sure you can squeeze out some additional great tones out of it just by upgrading the speakers on it. Very cool. Very cool. Let me know how you like it, J. Paul, once it's in there. Curious. I was considering picking up a Katana, but I wanted a head. Just because I wanted something that I can grab and go when I didn't necessarily want to beat the crap out of a tube amplifier, because tubes obviously are a little bit more delicate, especially in the winter time. I didn't necessarily want to lug my gear out in the cold because, tubes get cold when you're lugging them out. Let's say you're going to rehearsal and then you plug them in right away and then they heat up. And then after playing for 3 hours, you close everything off, you take it and you bring it right back out in the cold again. Can't be good for tubes. So I figured it would be good maybe to get like a Mark II or something along the lines of a Katana transistor, so that I wouldn't necessarily damage my more expensive amplifiers. I'm still thinking about it. Goats on the Roof is here. That's an interesting name. What's happening, goats? Oh man, that's a great name. Searching for Tone says, how many strats? Not enough, of course. Shane says, 2 strats, playing one now. How many of you out there are actually holding a strat in your hands right now while you're watching the show? If you're doing that, say aye, please. I'd like to know. I'm just scrolling down quickly, trying to catch up with you guys. There's a lot of comments here, and I'm losing track. Davis Music says, I love my strats. They're all SSS except for one strat build, which has single coil size humbuckers. Just don't expect true humbucker tone, but they work. Yeah, I mean, some of them that are HSS configuration, if you split them, you can get into that strat territory. But I haven't really found one that does it like, that nails it, you know? Dan says, picked up my 3rd strat this week. A Malmsteen signature with scalloped neck. Major difference with the Malmsteen Fury pickups. So definitely a unique, interesting instrument. I've never tried the Malmsteen scalloped neck. I've tried scalloped necks before, but not on that particular guitar. And it's really interesting because it's almost like you're walking a tightrope. You know, it's because if you press down too hard, you can actually throw the tuning off, you know, depending on. So it's one of those things where either you like it or you don't. I haven't had the courage to scallop any of my guitar necks. It's not a thing for me, but I think if you're going to do the Malmsteen thing and you're picking up a Malmsteen signature Strat, it's got to have the scallop neck. So that's pretty cool. Interesting. My knees hurt says, howdy folks, 7:43 a.m. here. A bit too early for me to be awake yet, but here I am. Well, thank you for joining in. Yeah, like we said earlier on, daylight savings time, what are you going to do? You know, but you can just lie there and keep your eyes closed and just listen if you if that does it for you. J. Paul says Charvel inverts the slant of the bridge pup in their Strat. They say for better tonal balance, they have a bridge single coil slot that has humbucker guts, as if I understand it correctly. As well, if I understand it correctly. I see what you mean. I like that because it gives you the opportunity to then modify it. If you do want to put in 2 humbuckers, you can. The early Strats that I had, you know, you would pull off the pickguard. It's all routed for single coil, so you can't really do anything to them unless you want to route everything out. And then Fender started doing this, what they call the swimming pool route, which, you know, was a big rectangular. They just dug out a big rectangular piece of wood under the pickguard, which I never liked, to be honest. I just felt like it was like, that's a lot of wood to be removing on your guitar, you know. So I didn't really ever go for those. If I wanted to build a guitar that had 2 humbuckers, I'd get something like you know, a Squier, the new Squiers that they were making that were kind of hybrid. And as a matter of fact, guys, I said I have 5 Strats. I kind of lied because I do have 2 more, but those are the Squiers. So I don't really. I'm talking like Fender Strats here, not necessarily Squier. And the Squiers have the humbuckers in them, so I can pull those out too, but you know what they look like. So Paul says, pedal of the week, Joyo JF12 Voodoo Octave Fuzz, made for 12 years, based on the original 1968 Shine Eye, $37 US on AliExpress, free shipping. So if you're into fuzz pedals, $37, pretty decent, good deal. Thanks for that. Paul's always a sweetheart in that he always, you know, gives us a couple of suggestions. You know, if you got a few bucks to throw onto a pedal, you can definitely, you know, check out some of his suggestions. Mazzetti is here, says better late than not. Hello everyone. Hey Mazzetti, what's happening, dude? Welcome. Speaking of pedals, I think you guys may have heard that Ibanez is re-releasing again. Again. How many times are they going to re-release the same stuff? I wish they would spend some time making something else. But they're going to be re-releasing the Tube Screamer. You may have heard that. And it wasn't that long ago where they re-released it. I don't remember which version it was. We're probably up to version like 20 now. But anyway, I guess they're going to try again. And it's funny when I read the editorials on these, you know, the announcements, because you can tell the marketing department has been hard at work, because, you know, they come out with stuff like this. There's headlines that say, "We sought to take the iconic Tube Screamer and push it further," you know? So they're saying that they're reimagining its beloved overdrive pedal into its most high-end format yet. What it should actually read is, "We're reimagining this beloved overdone overdrive into its most expensive version yet." So now you can spend $300 of your hard-earned money on a hand-wired TS-808. As if hand wiring is going to necessarily make it better. So basically, yeah, they're re-releasing it. So how many of you don't already own one? I'm sure a lot of you probably already have one. It's a very popular overdrive pedal nonetheless. I'm not going to knock it. I mean, it's sold extremely well over the years. I'm just getting a little bit tired of them rehashing the same stuff over and over again. Who's with me on this? You know, it just seems like everybody's like just rehashing the same stuff. It's like Hollywood. They're re-releasing the same movies over and over again. Why? Because they're running out of ideas. So anyway, yeah. So they're re-releasing it. It's going to be a hand-wired version here, apparently. And back in the day, the TS9 was like $99. The TS-808 was always more expensive because it was made popular by guys like Stevie Ray Vaughan and others. But now, at $300, that's a lot of money to be spending on a Tube Screamer. Especially since there's a lot of Tube Screamer clones out there, which are not necessarily as expensive. So, it's hand-wired. Okay, that's cool, but there's nothing wrong with circuit boards, in my opinion. So how many of you are interested in maybe picking one of these up? I think I'll pass. I've had modified Tube Screamers. I've had the TS9. I've had TS-808 clones. And to be honest, I don't really play it that much. If I had to buy something to do that kind of thing, I'd be more interested in checking out the ODS, the ODS-1, which I haven't ever owned. So I'd be interested in trying one of those out first. And like D-Max says, I got my, he's got his version, the TS9. It's great. No need for a new one. I mean, how different is it going to be at the end of the day? Wayne says Strats and Cats. Got plenty of both of them. And Dan says, I hate the foot switch on the TS9. Hey, Zach, what's happening? Zach Thong is in the house. Says, good morning, Tony. What's up, Zach? Rob says, I can't think of better... Oh, sorry. I misread that. Rob says, I can think of better ways to spend $300. I agree, Zach. Rob. Oh, man. This time shift is making me a little bit loopy here, I think. Jack says, I'll pass. Yeah, man. I'm not that interested in that. If $300 burning a hole in my pocket, I'm going to check out some other stuff. Hey, Charles, what's happening, dude? Welcome, welcome. We're talking tube screamers here and Strats today. Nella says I have the Behringer clone of the TS. I have it too, Nella. Works fine. David says I'll pass on the tube screamer. Hand wiring adds nothing to the sound except lack of consistency. I mean, when it comes to pedals, David, yeah, I kind of agree with you, man. It's like, why would you want to spend more time? I mean, it's going to cost more to have somebody hand wire them. Doesn't necessarily make them better. You know, machines today, pick and place machines are pretty consistent and accurate, much more than a human. So, you know, it's just a throwback to the old days when things used to be hand wired. But, you know, is it better? I don't know if it's better. So guys, who's playing a Strat right now besides me? Shane says for $300 a JHS bonsai. I mean, you can throw a rock and hit like 3 Tube Screamer clones right now. So why would you want to? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Dan of New Jersey says if they reissued the TS10, all Meyer guys would buy in a minute. They're probably waiting. Silver Bushman says GM everyone. GM every. What? Every. Are you playing with me? Okay, GM everyone if you're into wiring guitar, also helping out a guitar builder that needs help paying med bills from a heart attack. William Gelvin. I don't know what we're talking about here, Silver Bushman. Sorry. Davis says I sold all my boutique pedals and have kept my Boss and MXR. D-Max says, yeah, it's around that price. I'd rather have the Bonsai with all the other circuits for the same price. And Charles says, Strat on my lap, Tony. Awesome, Charles. Sweet, man. Ian says, I like a Univibe, but the one I like is over $300. I don't know why those pedals are always so expensive. I got one. The MXR version, which works fine, by the way, and I definitely didn't pay $300. Cushman says, new guitar day, picked up a Butterscotch SSS player Strat, loving it. Congrats. Cushman, it's always great to have a new guitar on your lap, isn't it? Butterscotch too. Very cool, dude. Like I mentioned earlier on, I've been on a Strat binge, and I don't know if you guys can see or not, but there's a few cases on the floor here with a couple of other Strats in them, just lying there. This is one of the Strats that I bought, which is kind of a little bit strange because I can't date it because the fellow who sold it to me stupidly filed or sanded off the serial number on it. But from what I can probably tell, it's probably a Mexican version. It looks like to me anyways. This is a very nice Mexican version of a sunburst, 3-tone sunburst Strat with beautiful rosewood fingerboard, no skunk stripe in the back, pretty good condition, nice neck on it as well, and it came with Lawler pickups when I bought it. And that's one of the reasons why I bought it, because it wasn't in pristine condition, but I figured the guy was asking for a decent price, and I figured just taken out the Lawler pickups and selling those, which I didn't actually like. A lot of people do freak out on those pickups and love them. I didn't. So I figured I can recoup a lot of the money that I paid for the guitar just by taking out those pickups. And I ended up selling them and putting in something else, and the guitar is very sweet. And it's very similar to my Japanese version, because I do have a Japanese version of this guitar. So this is a Mexican version, I'm pretty sure. Not a Japanese version, because the Japanese versions have the serial number here. This one had the serial number up here. So that's why I think it's a Mexican version, which is a sweet, sweet guitar. Let me just take this off for a second and show you the Japanese version. Give me a sec. So here you have, they look like brothers and sisters. They look like twinsies, but they're not. And sometimes I gotta look carefully to determine which one is which, because they're so similar. I think the real difference is the color of the pick guard, where you have the Japanese version here, which is a little different in color, you can see. So Japanese and Mexican. Other than that, the neck is different. The Japanese version has a slimmer neck, which I like. The Mexican version is a little bit beefier. The back of them very similar as well. Beautiful guitars. I had purchased the Japanese one first. It was one of the first ones that I bought, and I bought this one off of eBay, and I took a risk on it, and it actually is one of my favorite Strats. So I had to have another one, so I ended up buying this one, and it's different enough to justify keeping both. And we were talking about the release of the custom shop guitar, which they're charging $20,000 for. It's basically one of these. It's the same model. It's not necessarily, I'm not saying these are custom shops, but it's basically the same model. Like this one is the Japanese version here is a 62 version, and it was first released, I think, in the early 1980s. So this, I don't have the exact date of the guitar, because like I said, some of the serial numbers for whatever reason were removed. A lot of people stupidly did that because they wanted you to think that these were American versions when they're not. They're Mexican or Japan models. But the Japan 1962 Fender Stratocaster reissue was originally released in the 1980s. I think it was 82. So thinking about that, the guitar is not necessarily new. Quite a few years have passed, 44 to be exact. So it doesn't look like a 44-year-old guitar, but if it was released in 1982, that would make it about 44 years old. I love it, and I don't think I'm ever going to sell it. It's just one of those things, and it's in mint condition. So that's why I love these guitars so much. They don't necessarily sound the same either. The pickups I have in here are not reverse wound. They're a set of pickups that I bought from Fender, which are awesome and vintage, and they do sound different. So I'll make you hear what that sounds like. So while we're talking about Strats, how many of you would want to actually pick up a Strat one of those custom shop Strats. Hopefully it's not too loud, but I had to get that out. Yes, Gene, as a matter of fact, there is a poll question I forgot to mention. I usually mention it at the beginning of the show. The poll question is regarding scale length, and we'll get to it just before we wrap up today. Like I said, we're going to be talking about an hour or so, so we're going to see if we can cover that as well before we wrap it up. But there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about today. So, by the way, guys, if you ever are looking to date any of your Strats, you can do that online. I'll put the link to it for you. It's on the Fender website, but it's hard to find. And I'll put it in the chat for you guys, okay? That way you can check out your guitars. There it is. It's serial number lookup.fender.com/lookup/. They don't make it easy. But anyways, you can go there and you can date your Strats and figure out when they were made, and just give you a little bit more info on them. I've customized, Corey says, would rather customize my made in Mexico Strat myself. I mean, look, I would never spend $20,000 on anything that is basically a reissue or a copy, because again, they're making it sound like you're buying his guitar. You're not. You're buying a facsimile, an homage, you know, a replica. So yes, there's a lot of time that went into this guitar, I'm sure, but is it worth 20 grand? I don't think so. You know, if you're going to spend 20 grand, you can get yourself a very, very, very nice guitar. You know, probably one of the nicest guitars you can have, a, you know, a credible, talented guitar maker build you, you know, and still have some cash left over for some strings, probably. So yeah, that's way too much. Will it sell? I'm sure somebody will buy it, but I mean, I don't see why you would want it that badly. You know, it's like the SRV Strats that they released. You know, it's a relic guitar, but 20 grand I wouldn't pay. Sorry, just me. So yeah, I would rather customize my own Strats, and I've done it before. I'll show you one that I've done that in. I've done that too. Just trying not to pull out my headphones. I've shown the other guitar before. This is a different one. And this is just an example of what you can do. Like this guitar I'm holding in my hands is something that I built. So it's not, you can't find this one in the wild. It's not an off-the-shelf Strat. It's a custom jobber. And the reason why was, again, I came across this really nice 3-tone sunburst guitar body in nitro. And I wanted to kind of build my own SRV style guitar. So I ended up, you know, dressing it up with the appropriate colored knobs and pickguard and whatnot, and gold hardware on this one. And I figured, you know, why not? figured why not build my own Strat style guitar in the flavor of Stevie Ray Vaughan. And I wasn't intending on actually relicking this guitar. As you can see, it doesn't have any cover in the back or anything like that. It's not a one-to-one replica. It's just, you know, kind of close. I do like the fact that it has thicker frets and whatnot. But you know, what ended up happening was that the guitar, being nitro, ended up checking by itself. I don't know why. It just did. This is the only nitro guitar that I have that actually checked by itself. You can see it if I just put it in the light, maybe. You can see it here. Or maybe in the back. I don't know. Anyways, it's checked. So after I saw that, I was a little disappointed. But I said to myself, you know what, eventually maybe I'll just turn it into an SRV tribute. Maybe I'll just relic it, you know, but for right now I just left it as is. So if you know how to build guitars, you can definitely, you know, do your own thing to them. Shane says, I have two guitars from boutique brands and I do appreciate the craftsmanship. They run $3,000, but that is far less than what most Fender or Gibson custom shops cost. I think they're going a little bit too ballistic with the custom shop stuff, Shane, in my opinion. People want affordable guitars, and although these you know, signature series guitars are cool, you know, 20 grand is way, way beyond what the average mortal is willing to pay on an electric guitar. I mean, you got to be a pretty die-hard, you know, Chili Pepper fan to be able to spend that kind of money. You know, you're talking the price of a car, you know. So I don't know if I'd be willing to part with that much money for a Strat that is not necessarily even, you know, vintage. You know, if it was vintage, and I would say maybe it would gain value over time, maybe. It's got to be a pretty special guitar, but I don't think it'll gain value over time. It's just my thing. I don't think, you know, 10 years from now, people are going to be willing to part with $20,000 or maybe $25,000 for this guitar. Presley says he loves checking. You know, I like checking if I was, you know, if I bought a guitar that had the check-in already, but I'm not that much of a fan if I'm surprised by the checking. But hey, you know, it is what it is. I'm not going to cry over it. Martin Murray says the cold can accelerate the checking. I know, but I didn't really like have this guitar exposed to cold. It was kind of with all my other guitars, so I'm just wondering why this one specifically decided to check on me. But nonetheless, the guitar body is really sweet, and I love being able to see the grain of the wood on the guitars. To me, that's why I love these Sunburst Strats so much. They're always so sexy in my opinion. But that's just me. One other thing about all of my Strats is that all the tone knobs do something different. They're not all standard configuration. For example, you know, like usually the bottom one will control the bridge pickup and the top one will control the neck pickup. In some of them, it'll control the middle pickup. In some of them, it's completely out of the circuit. Like I don't even have it. Some of my Strats don't even have it connected to the bridge pickup. So they're all doing something slightly different. But I like it that way because it gives me a little bit more variety in tone. And it's something that you can easily return to stock if you wanted to. Silver Bushman says the one William Gelvin is building should be around 8K. SB says word is that John is broke from divorce, so that's why 20K. But they will release a Mexico model in the future. Maybe they will. Who knows? There's so many road-worn Strats still floating around the internet. You know, these kind of models that you see here, the you know, the 62s or the 50s Strats and all that kind of stuff. So you can get one easily. That is going to be a good starting point for anything you want to do to it in terms of relicking. So why pay that kind of dough is beyond me. I'm going to unplug this one for a second. There's another one I want to show you. This one, which you probably also have seen. I think I just relicked it. Oh man. I got to be careful with my guitars. A little bit more careful, but I don't... They get banged around, they get banged around. So this is another one that I picked up quite a while ago. This is a black made in Mexico Strat, and you can buy Mexican Strats all day long, but this is a reissue. This one was built in about 2010, I believe it was. It's a 2010 model. It's a 50 Stratocaster black. It originally came with the white pickguard, and it was a black key model. It looked like an Eric Clapton model. This one was made in May of 2010. So we're talking 14 years ago. Great guitar. I decided to mod it, of course. So I changed the pickguard. I made it into a Gilmore style guitar. And you can still see the black, the white cover plate in the back. Didn't change that. I just decided to change the front. I kept the original one in case I want to bring it back. I can. But this guitar was actually made out of two guitars. I had two versions that were identical. They were both 50s made in Mexico Strats like this one. And they were slightly different. I liked the neck on one and the body on the other one. And it's funny when I tell this story because people are like, what's the difference? Like, why would you? I ended up taking the neck off of one guitar, putting it onto the body of the other guitar and making one. And then the other one I sold. So basically, I took the best of both the neck and the body and made one guitar out of it. And I love it. And I've kept it ever since. And it's a great playing guitar. This one, let me see how I forget how the tone configuration is on this one. Let me just see here. So basically in this one, there's no effect of the tone knob on the bridge. And if I put it to the mid, so basically the bottom tone knob will affect the middle pickup in this particular guitar, and I believe the top one will be the neck pickup. I just love playing these Strats. They're so much fun to play. I wish I had more time to play them. That's the only thing. So then, this is the other one. And then the final one that you've seen many times probably before is the actual road-worn one, which I'll show you in a second here. Presley says, Tony, I took a burst nitro body and on a hot day took it apart completely so the body was bare, put it in the freezer. After frozen, I put it in the direct sunlight. I repeated 3 times, killer results. A lot of people will do the cold, hot, cold treatment to be able to get the finish to check if it's nitro. A lot of people will do that. Yeah, they'll put it in the freezer, or they'll heat it up, and then actually it's the freezer. It's cold first, I believe, and then hot, because then hot makes it expand and crack. A lot of people do it. Yeah, yeah. Apparently, you can also hit it with compressed air, or even a what do you call that? A fire extinguisher. Apparently, can also do the trick if it's. I haven't tried it, but people tell me that it works. I've seen videos on it and all that kind of stuff. But again, I didn't actually want the finish to check. It just did. So Scott Anthony says, if I'm spending that kind of dough, I'd much rather have a real deal vintage guitar than some 20,000 custom shop guitar. I don't care whose name is attached to it. I agree with you, man. And you could probably buy a really nice vintage guitar that will only go up in value, and you probably even pay less than 20 G's for it. Presley says, LOL, we upgraded to a fridge with a dedicated shelf for frozen pizza, basically made for guitar relicking. That's a great idea, man. How come I didn't think of that? Dude, you're a genius. Pizza. Fantastic. Davis says, Tony, what pickups in the Gilmore Strat? I wish I could remember. I keep on changing pickups so often that I don't even remember anymore. I would have to take a look. I don't know. I don't want to give you the wrong information, but maybe they're Texas specials. I'm not sure. I would have to recheck, Davis. It's been a while. I should actually write everything down. So here, I'll give you the view of the last Strat. Just so you guys because you guys have been asking me for a while to just show the Strats, so today's the day. I'm gonna do that. This is the road-worn version. So this one, again, the tone knob is not controlling the bridge pickup. It's actually mid. And if I put it into the neck position, so the tone are connected to the mid and the neck. I love the double bends. Anyways, all right. Sorry for blasting your ears all day long. But basically, this is road-worn Strat. Again, I love this road-worn Strat. This was made in 2009. So this is a 15-year-old guitar. So some people are like, oh, the road-worn Strats are just, fake relic guitars. But it's a 15-year-old guitar, and I could guarantee that some of the dings on this guitar were not off-the-shelf dings, and this is also quite checked. I don't know at this stage. I don't know which of the wear is real anymore, and which is actually was there from the beginning. But it's a great feeling guitar. I love playing this guitar. It just sounds so good, and it feels comfortable in my hands. There's just something about the road worn Strats. Some people love them, some people don't. It is what it is, but I love them. So, excuse me. Rico B says 43 years old. That's a great Strat. Congratulations. Thanks, dude. You know, this is how we, we realize we're getting older when we start dating our guitars, and it's like, man, that's an old guitar. And I remember when I bought it. So it's like, yeah, we're getting there, aren't we? Archduke of Tops. Strats sound great, by the way. Thanks, dude. And he says, Tony, where you get the decals for your Tiger guitar? I have a cheap guitar coming, and I want to decorate it. If you look online, there's quite a few places that will give you that you'll be able to get these decals from. Now, I believe you're talking about the Tiger striped one. If you watch the video, I did a video where I actually installed it, and I mentioned where I got it from, but you can actually get them from quite a few places right now, including you can actually get them made from car wrap services if you want. But you can get them online already made. There's skinyourskunk.com, which is basically they'll give you high resolution vinyl stickers for any guitar. There's also Rock Skins that actually will give you the same kind of deal. Custom guitar skin wraps. Insane with a Z. Skins is another one. There's so many right now. You can just do a Google search and you'll find like 20 of them. And they also make them for other types of guitars, not just Strats. You can also do Gibson style guitars and other things as well. So I haven't checked recently, so there might be new ones that are actually better than the ones I use. I don't really know. Haven't really tried to skin another one of my guitars recently, but I might maybe look into it again. Who knows? You know, guys, I think about it sometimes, and I was just thinking about it this week, thinking about, like, with time passing, and I sometimes I get a little bit, pensive about the whole guitar thing, and I'm thinking about, like, are we on our way to obsolescence? Because it seems to me like guitarists, we're living on borrowed time, in the sense that technology is moving forward. Everything's getting digital, AI, all this kind of stuff. We're, moving into the future quite quickly, but guitarists like the old technology. We like, tube amps that have basically, tubes are technology that was around in the, the 40s, right? But we're still looking for that technology today, where we have other technology at our disposal, but we don't really embrace it as much. So we're looking at old technology, and the kids today are kind of not really into guitars because there's so many other things that they can be doing, and they can be making music easier with computers, and they don't have to spend the time to practice and become good and hone the skill of playing guitars. I have a feeling that we'll be talking to our grandchildren eventually, and telling them how back in the day we could actually make a living out of playing music. Where people would actually come watch you play and hear you play. And you didn't need a second job, and you didn't require AI, and you didn't have to be a content creator to make a living. I think it's getting harder and harder to do that today. And unfortunately, it's like, I don't know how long, this whole guitar thing and tube amplifier thing is gonna last. I'm loving it, so I don't really care. But I'm just looking forward to the future, and I'm thinking, man, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. What do you guys think? Do you think it's gonna be something that we're gonna be able to look back, 20 years from now and say, yeah, it's still going strong? We need somebody to wave the flag. We need another Eddie Van Halen. We need somebody like that that's going to get people to take notice once again and pick up the guitar, But unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be the case. So if it's going to be that, well, so be it. We'll enjoy it while we can. I'm enjoying the music as is. I've been listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan recently quite a bit, and I loved what he put out there. It was such great stuff. Just recently listened to Cold Shot once again, and a great 2/4 shuffle. Simple yet effective. So many tasty licks in that song that you can learn if you just listen to it and pay attention. Not necessarily that difficult, but definitely tasty. And I love the video, by the way. If you guys remember that video, they must have spent like $75 making that video, but it was so funny. If you go in and just Google Cold Shot video, that was, I think, was that in the 80s? I think it was 89 that video came out. Funny video. MFN says, I tried to get my two boys into guitars, but they were only interested in tech music. Maybe in 30 years they will inherit my guitars and decide to play. I don't know, dude. I hope so. But I don't see that many of my kids' friends playing guitar. And it's a shame. I really wished some of my kids would end up playing guitar, but none of them picked it up. What are you going to do? Can't force them. David says, guitars and amps will be around forever. I think Beato makes a lot of videos about the decline in middle-class musicians. Streaming made the cash pool smaller, so they cut corners on live musicians. Yeah, it could be. And Janelle says there are some really good bands out. It's just the fact that you have to look for them. Yeah, because they're not getting promoted like they used to be. The new bands have to almost promote themselves. It's tougher. It's really a lot tougher to actually make money, just selling records. That doesn't work anymore. So now you got to tour. And if you're not touring, you're not making money, or you got to be on social media and you got to be doing something else. So Rico, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I think they're Texas specials in the Black Gilmore Strat. Don't quote me on it because it's been a while, and I swap all of my pickups, and for the life of me can't remember sometimes what's in there. I would have to pull off the pick guard to make sure. You might want to check out the video that I did when I actually reviewed that guitar, and I probably mentioned it in that video. Hey, by the way, guys, there's some interesting news today. Before we get to the poll question, some interesting news regarding Dumble. Apparently, they're going to be reviving the brand. I don't know how they're going to do this, but I was watching some videos, and I know that Bonamassa Joe has been adamant about the Dumble amplifiers that he has. I think he had 8 at one point, and the Dumble brand, as you probably know, were around back in the day. Alexander Dumble, who's considered a genius when it comes to amplifier, was taking these amplifiers that were loosely based on Fender Showman amps. Some say Fender Bassman amps, but basically he was taking these amplifiers and he was customizing them. He was using premium components and his own innovative circuitry redesigns to create his own distinct sound, and it became quite sought after by a lot of musicians, and it turned into that Dumble sound. And each amp, this is the thing about Dumble is that he was kind of customized. He was doing the custom shop stuff before that became a thing for amplifiers. And I'm sure eventually some amplifier manufacturer might revive that, just like they did with the custom shop guitars. They might end up making custom shop amplifiers where they can dial them in to your specifications. That's probably $1 million idea right there. But basically, he took each of the amps and he created a unique design that was tailored to the preferences of the individual artists that he was making them for. So he was basically, telling you, okay, here's the stock Dumble. Now you can tell me exactly how you want me to tweak it, and I'll make it to your taste. And that was, costing a lot of money back in the day, and those amplifiers became very, very collectible, because I think there was only 300 maybe made, or less than 300. So there's not that many floating around anymore, and they've become very collectible. So you're going to be paying a lot of money. Some people say like close to $100,000 for one. And there's a lot of artists that have them, including Joe Bonamassa and others that can afford these kind of things. But I'm wondering now, like, we know like Carlos Santana uses one, Robin Ford uses them. Steve Ray Vaughan, I think, had one as well. Larry Carlton and others. So now apparently they're bringing it back. And this could be just a rumor, so don't quote me on this because it's still early on, but I did see that there's a Dumble.com website. And on that website, there is some cryptic information, but it's not necessarily clear as to what they're doing. But if you go to Dumble, don't go now. I'll share it on my screen so you can see it. And we can look at it together, just so you guys know. If there's big Dumble fans in the house, this might be something that will catch your attention. Here we go. Dumbled. It's basically the Dumble website, dumble.com. And there's a little information here. And basically what it says is, welcome to Dumble.com, the official home of Dumble with a registered trademark amplifiers, news and information. So I'm not sure if this is like a website dedicated to information on the Dumble amp, or if they're eventually going to be making their own. It's not clear. But basically they're saying, while counterfeiters have always attempted to replicate the genius Alexander Dumble's meticulously crafted amplifiers, not surprisingly, none have even come close to being successful. Unfortunately, after his passing last year, so this is an old quote, I guess, the proliferation of such ne'er-do-wells has expanded in an effort to protect the iconic brand and the current and future customers of Dumble products and services. This website was created to serve as a reliable resource for all things Dumble. So it seems to me like this website now is going to be, I guess, sharing information about Dumble amplifiers, but there's nothing here. There's no links. There's nothing new here. So it seems like it's just there, and we're not sure what it's going to be used for. But the information online says that, at least the rumor says that the Dumble line of amplifiers will be picked up by somebody and revived. Now, I don't know if Joe Bonamassa has a stake in all of this. Since he has 8 of them, he would probably be the go-to guy to be able to take a look at how these amplifiers were built and use his amplifiers as a prototype, or just a guideline for the new ones. But I'm sure there's a market if somebody does come out with the Dumble revived name. There would be a lot of people waiting to get their hands on these things. So it's going to be interesting to see where that's going to go. I've never had the privilege of playing a Dumble. The closest I've gotten to a Dumble style amplifier was the Fuchs Blackjack 21. And Fuchs is another company that kind of has been inspired by the Dumble sound and has been releasing amplifiers along those lines, but it's a far cry from an actual Dumble. So, you know, I don't know if when these new amplifiers do come out, if they do come out, how much they will cost, but I'm sure it will turn some heads. So I don't know what you guys think about this, if you're interested in that, but basically that's something that I'm going to be keeping my eye on. It's on the radar, and I'm sure we'll get some additional information in the short term. So Johnny Guitar 57 says Dumble special on reverb is $309,000. I think I'll take two. Wow. I didn't think they were that expensive. So probably this guy is just fishing to see if he can find somebody who's willing to part with over $250,000 for an amplifier. That's crazy. Crazy, dude. That's bananas. Jamel says, my younger brother wanted to get into playing guitar, so I gave him my 2017 Gibson Les Paul Tribute and my Mustang GT40 amp, and he's really digging it. Great, dude. You planted the seed. That's the way to do it. Shane, good night, man. 2 a.m. here. Gotta sleep. Take it easy, Shane. Sweet dreams, dude. Hopefully you'll have a Strat dream or something like that. Rico says, I sent my kid in college a Johnny 5 Firefly 225 and a Spark Go he's been learning via YouTube. Nice. Very cool, man. I love to hear those stories. I haven't given up on my kids, by the way. Sometimes it's better late than never, but not sure. SB says, one of my ex-friends is an amp builder in my country. He has a nice model of a Dumble 183. Ex-friends? What did you do? All right, let's get to the poll question, guys, because it's getting a little late, and I want to cover that. The poll question today was on the community section of the YouTube page, as per usual. And I'm going to say that it was an interesting topic I wanted to cover. Let's see how many votes. We got 98 votes, and the question was, do you perceive any actual difference between a 24.75 and a 25.5 scale length on your guitar or guitars? And which is your favorite? So maybe some of you don't even know what I mean when I talk about scale length. But basically, the scale length refers to the difference between the nuts and the bridge of your guitar. And it affects both the tone and playability to a certain degree of an instrument. So a guitar with a longer scale length, like Fender, is a 25.5 usually. And they tend to have a brighter tone, more string tension, which can be great for clarity, articulation, that kind of thing. And then Gibsons usually use 24.75. It's a little bit shorter, and it produces a little bit of a warmer tone, less tension, making bending strings easier, and it just gives you a different feel, different vibe about the guitar. But I don't know if you can really, if many people will actually see that difference. And I don't know if you guys go out and select a guitar specifically by its scale length. Some of you might feel one feels better than the other, and a lot of you might not even realize that's a thing. So I'm curious to see what you guys think, if it's just me. So SB says 24, says it's my favorite. I love 24 of Jaguars. My hands don't work properly as I get older, so 24 helps. And David says, I answered what's a scale length because I'll do either. And for me too, like I don't mind, like I can switch between a Fender and a Gibson scale length without too much hesitation. Like there's not a real difference. I'm used to both because I've played both many times, and I switch between both, so it doesn't really make too much of a difference to me. But I could imagine if somebody played only Strats or only Les Paul style guitars and then switched, it might make a bigger difference. So I'm not sure, but if we look at the results of the poll question, we basically have three choices. The choices are 24.75 is my go-to scale length. The second choice is 25.5, just feels right to me. And then the last choice is what's scale length. So the number one answer is 25.5, it just feels right to me. 44% of you chose that answer. And then that was followed by 24.75 is my go-to scale. And then 20% of you said, what's scale length? Now there were a couple of comments there, so I'm going to just go in and take a look at some of those as well, just so that we can share. And Vinny says, I definitely perceive the difference, especially on one, wider stretches on the lower frets, and two, the response on heavier rhythm parts when playing on the lower strings. So no particular preference though. I tend to adjust by using a higher string gauge on 24.75 scale length guitars and vice versa to compensate. So that is something that a lot of people will do. They'll adjust by using higher string gauges on the shorter scale length, you know, and that basically will sort of resolve any issues that that they can feel there. But then others said, I never paid attention if my guitar had 6 inline headstock or not, tummy cut or not, would be the things I would consider. I may or may not even ever notice the other things. So for them, scale length is not a thing. And then time surfing alien says, I have all three. I found myself grabbing the 25-inch scale length most of the time, but no real difference that I can tell. Interesting. And then one last comment was, I have short, fat fingers. Too short for 25, too fat for 24, but I prefer 25.5. Well, thank you for those great comments, guys. It does definitely clarify a few things. I fall in the camp where I don't necessarily have a preference. I'll grab a guitar and I could work around either scale length. For me, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. And so, you know, I just basically look for how the guitar feels in my hands and I can adjust. It's not a big thing. DMAX says Line 6 Helix Universe has Grammatico amps, which are apparently Dumble clones. Interesting. Now, are those like, is that a digital clone or is that actually like, you know, a clone of an amp with tubes in it? And Martin Cloutier says, I do feel a difference between my Les Paul and my Strat style guitar, except my EVH Wolfgang. On the Wolfgang, the body and neck position feel like a Les Paul, but tension and sounds are like a Strat. I do agree with you on that, and it's interesting that you do mention that, Martin, because I did have the Wolfgang as well, and it did feel kind of like a combo between both guitars. And it was cool because the EVH also has a smaller body. When you're playing it, it feels smaller than a Strat. It's just the way it's designed, you know. I always felt that it did feel very comfortable in my hands. So yeah, it's interesting that you do mention that. And DMAX says, I think the Dude pedal by J-Rocket is a Dumble inspired circuit as well. Yeah, it probably is. So Paul says a Dumble is a topology of a Fender Bassman with a tube screamer built in. Dumble then used about 90% of the basic design and changed the other 10% to suit the buyer. It's always the 10%. That's what you're paying for, man. That 10% is going to be very expensive. All right, guys, very cool. I think we had a great turnout today. 60 people still here, 59 thumbs up. There's just one dude. One dude. I think we're going to wrap it up. I did appreciate you guys tuning in, even though we had the time change and all of that. It was a lot of fun. I was looking forward to talking to you guys this week, as I always am. I think you guys are awesome. And thank you once again for tuning in to the live Sunday show. Now that all the renovations are coming to a close, hopefully I'll be able to pump out those videos. Once again, I've been very tardy in pumping out some new videos on my channel just because of stuff that's been happening here. But I promise there'll be some cool stuff that I have lined up for you. I have it ready to go. It's just got to put the final touches on it. So stay tuned for that, guys. Please give me a thumbs up on the way out and subscribe if you haven't already done so, because we'll be doing this again next week. All right. That's it, dudes. Have a great time playing your Strats this week. Have fun. Enjoy yourself. And think about me when you're thinking about scale length later on today. Or not. That's it for now, guys. Thank you. See you soon.